I would like for us to consider some great examples of humility in the characters of the New Testament this week by their demeanor and by their actions. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Monday. You know, we find many followers of Jesus throughout the New Testament that were just a part of the crowds. They were wanting to see the miracles. They were hearing his teachings, but they were not totally devoted to him. There were many in those crowds who were skeptical, probably ready to leave him at any time. But there was also a young woman named Mary who lived in Bethany with her brother Lazarus and her sister Martha. And she had spent some time with Jesus and worshiped him like no other. The first picture we witness of her humility is when she's sitting at the feet of Jesus while he is teaching. She is a devoted student and follower. We actually read of this instance because of her sister's complaints. Martha is telling Jesus, "Why is it that Mary isn't helping? I'm left to do all the serving and the cleaning for all of our guests are here, and she's just sitting there." But Jesus told her, "Martha, you are anxious. You're troubled about many things. But one thing is necessary. And Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her." Showing her humility to her master was so important here. She's also ready to learn and hear his words, which would be so helpful later. And then we see her after Lazarus has died, when Jesus arrives and she exclaims, "Jesus, we know if you had been here, our brother would not have died." Such a declaration of her faith is astounding when now her family is faced with this death and grieving. But probably the greatest showing of her humility is when she anointed Jesus. Mark chapter 14 tells us that they were in the home of Simon the leper. Obviously, this was one whom Jesus had miraculously healed, or they would not have been there in his presence. And Mary enters the room while all these men are eating. She's carrying a very costly alabaster box of ointment. And the Bible tells us in John chapter 12 and verse 3 that she brought an alabaster flask of fragrant oil, and she stood at his feet behind him weeping. She began to wash his feet with her tears, and she wiped them with the hair of her head. She kissed his feet and anointed him with this fragrant oil. Notice she is not caring about what others think. She doesn't care about the cost of this nard, which she has poured freely over him. All she cares about is honoring her master and her Savior. Now that is pure humility. That is self-effacing, to consider God and Jesus Christ above all else in our lives. Notice the men in the room, by the way, would scoff at this waste of costly ointment. But Jesus said, "Wait a minute. Simon, when I came into your home, you did not wash my feet as you would some weary traveler. You did not give me a kiss as you would a friend. You did not even anoint my head as oftentimes they would in those days after traveling on dusty roads. You didn't even treat me like a guest." So wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. This is a memorable humility before God. So I think we have to question ourselves today. Have we offered anything to God in humility lately that will be remembered either by him, by us, or by others?